Welcome back to the league that means nothing on Go Again Gaming.
We're back with the League That Means Nothing, Season 4, Round 3, and the sparks are going to be flying, dare I say, the daggers and harpoons instead. My name is Bryce Platts, joined with Eleanor May Bird. I am so excited to have her back for another round of the League That Means Nothing. And as I alluded to before, this matchup is going to be Arachne, Slip Through the Cracks, versus Marlynn, Treasure Hunter. How do you feel about this matchup, Ellie?
That's a pretty exciting one. I'm a big fan. There's definitely a world where had I gone to Singapore, didn't just because of flight timing and money and that sort of thing, but I got very close to being talked into playing Marlynn at the Pro Tour by Pankaj. So there's a world where this was my weekend a couple weeks ago, but definitely a big Marlynn fan. Also, definitely a big Slippy fan. I actually I thought that deck was really fun. There was a point in time where I was playing that, and Yuki was playing a bunch of Arthur Trehe's Verdance deck back in like a PQ season, and it was just really fun going like, I put a stealth attack on the table, she's at like 10, she says no blocks because she's holding a bunch of defense reactions, and I just like make it backstab with Take Up the Mantle, and just say like, okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's pretty fun.
Big fan of both heroes.
So Pankaj has not just been psyopsing everybody on Arsenal Pass. He actually believes in this hero.
Oh, he definitely believes in Marlynn, for sure.
All right, interesting. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. Honestly, I had a soft spot for like Marlynn was definitely the hero that I was most excited about going into high seas, just because I have a lot of Ranger roots. In no small part due to the influence of your partner, by the way, Ellie. Watching her play Lexi early on in my career was really enthralling. That being said, it has kind of the hype has fallen off for me. I enjoyed doing a little bit of canon here and there, but I just not seeing the results, and so I've kind of put her in the back pocket for now. So I am definitely going to give Bryce's lock of the round to Slippy. Nevertheless,
okay.
I would not be upset if I saw a Marlynn victory here.
This one's kind of interesting for me, because I think it depends a lot on what the Marlynn deck looks like. When I was playing Pankaj's deck, I think it is overall the better Marlynn deck, but I also think it has a much tougher time into Slippy because it relies a lot more on the overpower mechanic and that sort of thing. There's a period of time where I was playing like a very battalion bark pummel kind of heavy Marlynn deck, basically just playing Guardian, except I thought sees you a lot. And that deck with like 3 tar pit traps, bunch of defense reactions, bunch of pummels was like very, very good into Slippy. So it'll depend on what Marlynn deck looks like, but I'll put my weight behind her. I'm excited.
All right, I'm excited. We've got a caster showdown in this case then. Before we find out who wins the match, and more importantly, who wins the caster match, we do have to take a quick moment for our sponsors who support the League That Means Nothing. We'll be right back after this.
This game, The League That Means Nothing, is brought to you by Enter the Battlefield Gaming out of Ontario, Canada. They specialise in all of our favourite games, including this one, Flesh and Blood, but also do things like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lorcana, One Piece, Sorcery, Warhammer, and everything else as well. Make sure you go and check them out when you can. That's enterthebattlefield.ca. Also, make sure you use the affiliate code ETBLeague5 to get 5% off any fab singles on the site. That's ETBLeague5. Go and check them out now.
And we're back. Ellie, shall we proceed on down to the match floor?
Let's.
All right, teleporting our way there just now. We've got Finlay Shepard on the left side of your screen, piloting Marlynn Treasure Hunter. Looks like leading off with a Quiver of Rustling Leaves activation and finding a hit. It's King Shark Harpoon, one of those cards that you really want to get into your graveyard and either by resolving or blocking nice and early. On the right side of your screen, it's Ryan Ward, 38 life. Because Arachne Slip Through the Cracks is just such a powerful hero, he needs to be nerfed just a little bit.
I didn't know who the players were going into this match. I know Ryan, really, really good friend of my friend. we did some drafts together early on in the high seas season. Player from Winnipeg, very nice guy, super duper great guy. As you can see on his very cool playmat, member of Team Zen State, which I think is very cute. They had these little hats made. I think they're adorable. And kind of the crux of what this matchup looks like, as we are seeing here, that overpower maybe not as impactful as we would have liked to see. We find the harpoon turn 0 and we get the cannon activation. It's all really exciting stuff, but it just gets blocked out for 9, only finding 1 damage. Our small mercies are that we did get a piece of gold over there for Finley.
And of course, Leave No Witnesses makes its way into the graveyard. So that card that Finley puts there on the setup turn 0, is probably going to be safe for 1 more turn, because Assassins only pack 2 copies of Arsenal Disruption, right?
Yeah, everyone knows that there's no way to recur anything in Assassin, and we only play Leave No Witnesses.
But nevertheless, Ryan draws up a monster of a hand here. It's Savor Bloodshed into Kiss of Death after cycling the entire 4 cards that he started with. He does have a small drawback.
Yeah, that full mulligan.
There was a just a Nick drawn up there, so not going to be able to be played unless that the last card in the hand is, of course, a 1 power attack. Right now, it's just Kiss of Death for 7. Go again. Nothing too scary, especially when you can flick a marked dagger at reaction speed.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a shelter effect here, so that is going to come across. We are losing a little bit of value here. That Kiss of Death is definitely not going to get flicked on this turn, but still a 2-card 8 here that is going to draw a card, unless Finley's holding on to 2 defense reactions here, taking 8, I believe, down to 31, thanks to Kiss of Death's trigger, and a card going to be drawn for Mr. Ward.
37 plays 31, a massive swing taken. Ryan, are you missing your card draw, my friend? Don't you?
Uh-oh.
Okay, double trouble, and it's not just for Finley here, who is facing down this double trouble with a Just a Nick packed in hand for Ryan Ward. It's also Ryan for missing that draw trigger from Kiss of Death.
Yeah, missed triggers are a part of the game of Flesh and Blood. It does just happen sometimes. It feels a little bad, but lessons learned. And were it ever going to happen, this 4-card 15 is definitely a pretty solid spot. Oh well, I lost a little bit of value,
Oopsie-daisy.
but still managed to get 12 damage across here.
Really, really nasty stuff here. 37 plays 28. Both of these players just walloping one another. But one of them is doing it a little bit better than the other. Ryan, gotta hand it to him. What an amazing 4-card draw right there. I think he's just taking one more quick look at it, just admiring how perfectly those cards came together.
Oh, and finding the misdraw trigger did get resolved. So we did find that. So a 3-card 15 functionally, since we have found an arsenal here. Pretty sweet 4 off the top, from the top rope there.
Little known fact, Savor Bloodshed actually says the next time a dagger hits a marked hero, create a ponder token.
That would be close to fair.
That might have been the nerdiest joke I've ever made in my entire life, Ellie.
I have a very distinct memory of being in middle school and laughing about, like, multiplication. So I think I've got you beat.
We were just talking about multiplication before we recorded this.
Yeah.
I think we're both in the right place.
Yeah. 3 of a kind, pretty sweet here. I didn't notice at the start of this game that Finley is on Skullbone Crosswrap. Speaking of Pankaj's deck, he is a big fan of Crown of Providence, but that opt very clearly coming in handy here, as Finley does find a harpoon off 3 of a kind. Looks like we are going to see the classic bread and butter cannon activation into harpoon for 10 after drawing 3 cards.
And even though that 3 of a kind did not find the blues that you often want in that situation, it does find enough resources to do the cannon, harpoon, arsenal thing, which is really what Marlynn wants to be doing. King Shark Harpoon, just one of the better ones that you can be sending at Slippy. Of course, King Kraken is A-OK at finding Saber Bloodsheds and Codexes of Frailty, but there's definitely a higher density of attack action cards, and especially when your opponent is blocking with several reactions, you can bet on disrupting this turn pretty handily.
Yeah, interestingly, it kind of seems like Ryan has a solid one-card play regardless of which kind of harpoon Finley had for him here. If he were a King Kraken and he took the Orb Weaver Spinneret, he did still get to send across that Kiss of Death as a one-card 4. Both of these going to be one-card 4s. But actually, this Orb Weaver Spinneret pairing quite nicely with that Persuasive Prognosis from Arsenal, just coming in for 4 here, threatening some pretty real disruption. Pretty well coordinated blocks. Even if Slippy doesn't get to fold the entire hand into the harpoon, even getting to block with 1 extra card into overpower can make it so difficult for Marlyn to actually meaningfully disrupt your turn, just because you still get to convert your cards the way you would like.
Now, Marlyn able to make use of that one piece of the fridge that won't go away after a block, Gold-Baited Hook, in addition to a Command and Conquer, blocks out that Persuasive Prognosis. That's usually a move, I would imagine, with Finley's equipment loadout that you want to save for a Leave No Witnesses. But nevertheless, Persuasive Prognosis offers too much disruption to ignore. In this case, it's back over to Finley. 28 plays 33, and they have just revealed a Battering Bolt in the arsenal to pay for the cost of Skullbone Crossstrap.
For what it's worth, I do think that the Seaways Sarong kind of just ends up being Perch Grapplers blocking 2 99% of the time, so maybe that's what Finley is saving for a Leave No Witnesses, especially with a few 2 blocks in the deck, thanks to any arrow pumps or 3 of a kinds waiting in the 60.
Big Game Trophy Shot is the follow-up to a Marlyn activation, which means that that Goldfin Harpoon is just going to become another card, performing its probably most important function, which is to be discarded and cease to exist.
Yeah, it is nice when you have that late game loop with a Gold-Baited Hook, where you just make a Harpoon and send a Harpoon for 6 on 2 cards every single turn, but the rest of the time, I very much agree, you are typically just kind of something that really captured my attention about Marlyn is she's very much about turning virtual card advantage into real card advantage with effects like Golden Tipple and Big Game Trophy Shot. So quite cool to see utilized here. One of my favorite things about the hero.
Battering Bolt coming in for a whopping 14, a very, very good card against heroes that pack cards that aren't action cards. A few that I can think of in the Slippy deck are anything that says reaction, which they are want to have in their 80. So 14 on a Battering Bolt is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, threatening to discard basically some of the most premium cards. It'll take your Take Up the Mantles, your Just a Nyx, your Tarantula Toxins. This is a pretty hateful arrow to have in your deck, and I actually think a lot of Marlyns are just on this card by default. So a little bit of this just fits well into the deck and lines up nicely into Slippy. Curious to see how Ryan responds. Sometimes, when you play Marlyn, it feels like all the time your arrows just find nothing in their hand. So curious to see what this ends up looking like as it connects with Ryan's hand. But I suspect the T-Tox being the only block here means that Ryan has just a big fat wad of nothing for Finley to discard.
Unfortunately not. It's all actions in the hand. A Kiss of Death, Savor Bloodshed, and a Leave No Witnesses. At least Finley is able to see what is coming at this point. And, you know, you would love for Battering Bolt to be discarding a lot of your opponent's reactions, but hey, when that T-Tox Kiss of Death combo is no longer online, that is still a huge win for the Marlyn player in this position.
Yeah, there's a bit of an invisible type of disruption that Marlyn gets up to with these harpoons, where your opponent does get to block with, maybe the only target, but you did still take it out of their hand, even if they got to get 3 value out of it.
And a life lead has finally been gained for our
in
Marlyn
the
player.
hand. Yeah, like you said, all actions in the hand, but it's also all action. This is a 3-card 12 that would be threatening any arsenal Finley might have. And should Ryan want to cash in that last clave, something that may depend based on whether or not he has a certain amount of retrieve cards in his deck. We may see this be a 3-card 12, or rather a 2-card 12.
If he does have those
It already
retrieve
is a 3-card
effects,
12.
we haven't seen them yet, which means they're probably looming their heads right around the corner. He at least has Orbweaver Spinnerets, which will allow him to make use of an empty dagger slot. But no, there's no flick on this Kiss of Death, which is a curious choice here. What do you think about that? Does that telegraph the fact that Ryan maybe doesn't have any retrieve effects in his deck?
It may also just be that Ryan values dealing damage here and just wants to get that flick on the Kiss of Death for an extra 2 free damage.
Leave no witnesses, the follow-up, but no arsenal card found for our Marlynn player. So it's just disruption and damage, disruption off the top of the deck and damage on offer here. Flicking the Kiss of Death.
Hitting the Tar Pit Trap is pretty real. That card pulls some very serious weight in this matchup. I've definitely played games where I put the Tar Pit Trap on their pain in the backside or whatever, and they send the world's saddest Command and Conquer my way. So that card leaving Finley's deck is very real. I think this is already a bit of a tough position for the Treasure Hunter, and seeing one of your best defensive tools exit your deck for no value is not always what you want to see. But speaking of seeing things, I have a Phidia pitched into Cannon here is one of the more powerful things this deck is capable of doing. I imagine Finley might be holding on to a Codex of Frailty if we saw no blocks there, or we're just going to see a gold activation, or perhaps what this Marlynn activation is telegraphing is a big game trophy shot.
Instead, the second mode, I suppose, on the third mode, perhaps, that we're talking about now for the Goldfin Harpoon is just to be discarded with no extra value to Codex of Frailty, allowing you to play it with a card still in hand. A very interesting choice here, preserving an arsenal, but also a Ponder token, so maybe doing a little bit of double duty unless there's going to be... no, we've already activated Hammerhead. So I don't know. The Ponder token is not going to get maximum value here.
I'm definitely curious here. It might just be that he's protecting a card he really wants to hold on to. Maybe it is a Codex of Frailty. Maybe it is a Rain Razors. Should we want some kind of reaction speed interaction here?
Do you pack Rain Razors in your Marlynn list or Ponkage's list, I suppose?
Not at all, but
yeah, I never did either.
Some might.
It is fun to be able to play against opponents that have been kind of put through trauma from other Rangers because they are always expecting it, even if it's like the de facto list does not even pack it, you know?
Yeah, there's very much the, you can tell when somebody played in the Lexi meta and not when they just go, please don't Rain Razors me. Do you remember that week or so before the set released where everybody thought Death Dealer Marlynn was gonna be the new Lexi and break the format wide open?
I have a teammate who is wont to say very absurd things. Some of which are when the first Arachne was spoiled, he said, "I will never play anything for an entire year except Arachne Huntsman." That changed in about 2 months.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
Yep.
He then said the same thing about Tekla Vossen and Death Dealer Marlynn. Both of those mantles were dropped lightning quick as well.
Was this Evan?
Yep.
Yep.
I wasn't sure.
I like Evan a lot. Really nice guy.
I know, he's the best. I trashed him during, without naming him, mind you, during my podcast with Yuki as well. So the cat's out of the bag there.
Funny.
Pretty much any time I'm bad-mouthing somebody and not naming them, it's Evan.
There was he played perhaps the most brutal game of Fatigue Foreign into me at London. We were both already dead for cash. And I was just kind of playing out games of Flesh and Blood. I go first. I like Arsenal Flicker Wisp. He manages to get 3 Earth cards into his graveyard on my very first turn, and then Plow Unders my Flicker Wisp, and he's presented Scepter, and I was just like, I'm not, you got me. Like, I'm dead. It's over.
Oh, you think he's a pain when he's playing bad decks. When he finally sinks his teeth into a good deck.
He was very nice.
Nah, he's a pain.
He just owned me.
He's a pain. Don't give him the credit.
He just very thoroughly owned me.
This segue brought
Looks
to
like
you by the AG Pro Team, but 1 damage leaking through on a Leave No Witnesses from Ryan Ward.
No. There was a frailty. That was Ryan's pickup on the Codex.
Oh, heck
I
yeah.
believe Ryan picked up the Leave No Witnesses after Finley played a Codex.
Us
and then
Rangers can read
blocked
books
the
too,
whole
baby.
hand away. Yeah, but card game players can't read. So
Straight up. I also can't see. 14 plays 22. Now back on the side of our treasure hunter, who is opting, thanks to that Skullbone Crosswrap, revealing a 3 of a kind. Probably hunting for some resources here, though, taking a bit of a pause on the top. It is left there, nevertheless. Big Game trophy shot. No gold at this point, though, so cannot just cash in a Goldfin Harpoon for a free, in air quotes, draw. Instead has to discard a Tip the Barkeep. Playing now that 3 of a kind, going ahead and drawing up 3, hopefully having already found the offensive harpoon that he wants to send on this turn off of the Opt of the Skullbone Crosswrap. No, it is a battering bolt instead, which is still going to do some serious work, as we have already seen this game.
yeah, I believe this is going to be another battering bolt for 14. We talked about Marlynn being a little bit unfavored in this matchup if their deck looks a certain way, but Finley is definitely finding all the action he's been looking for so far.
Oh, and using the Tunic to get that last resource and under send the battering bolt. Heck yeah, Finley, things are looking up for our Pirate Ranger right here. It is yes, Ellie, another 14 damage battering bolt with a card in hand, mind you, destined for the arsenal.
Yeah, getting to use Tunic to smooth out your resource curve when you draw into a blue and yellow is a very important part of things for Mario. And I know early on, people were kind of talking about maybe this hero is a Trench of Sunken Treasures deck, but Tunic just does so much work smoothing out your curve on turns like this.
Yeah, and it's not one of those
Yet
decks.
Again, just one reaction.
A story we've already seen play out this game, but perfect information is still useful against assassin enemies.
Is quite useful, but no amount of information will save you from the punishment this turn promises. That is Infect, Pain in the Backside, and Codex of Frailty. So this is going to be Slippy doing his best to ninja impression, sending 3 into 4, but with a little bit of extra spice thanks to those lovely assassin card on hit effects.
Bringing all the spice and nothing nice. It's Pain in the Backside. 3 go again, threatening an on hit of 1 damage and the on-hit effect of one of those daggers on the hit of Pain in the Backside.
Most likely a mark.
You'd have to believe so.
Though, doesn't really do very much on this turn.
11 plays 14. Finley eclipses his assassin opponent in life, but for how long? Looks like no blocks here for Finley Shepard, disrespecting this on-hit, and down he goes to 10 life after the damage from Pain in the Backside and also that dagger flitting across the board and then going right back to the equipment zone. Follow-up here is Infect, a head jab, but one that threatens much more. Space Aids.
Good old 0-4-5 here.
Blocked out by Sealay Sarong and Fiendal's Spring Tunic. They have done their work for this game and are now headed to the bin as Codex of Frailty hits the table, probably finding a Leave No Witnesses because the arsenal is locked and loaded for Finley Shepard on this turn.
Yeah, this matchup so far has been a little bit of a I play my Codex, you play your Codex back and forth. I think we've seen 4 played so far and 1 pitched on Finley's side of the table.
Right, you are my co-caster. Does look like 4 is the block here. A King Shark Harpoon plus that all-important Skullbone Crosswrap. No more breakpoints being cleaned up nicely for Finley for the rest of this game. Unless, of course, a Tar Pit Trap does come out to play. We've only seen one of those go to the Banish Zone thus far. None played. Hammerhead, however, activated here. Finley Shepard pulling back, knocking something nasty. It's a premeditate, followed up by, it's another battering bolt. 14 once again.
13 this time, but threatening a Ponder should it connect. And 2 damage past lethal. Actually 12, thanks to the Frailty. That is the case of webcam games. You know, the Frailty's on Ryan's side of the board, but it is under Finley's control.
It's a shame they can't flick those tokens through the ether to one another to help us out.
Yeah. Across the pond in this game's case.
Ooh, here we go. Ryan is now forced to block with more than one reaction here. No tarantula toxins have been allowed to resolve this game, and it's all because of these battering bolts that have come at critical points for Finley Shepherd.
The Crown of Providence also being used here, maybe looking to fix Ryan's hand or just cash out. A little bit of a sucky ponder. Ryan having 3 cards to work with here. We've talked a lot about how Marlyn's been approaching this game, but Ryan has been doing a very good job of staying in control and navigating his way through. I mean, Marlyn's had disruption basically every single turn, and Ryan has basically found the ideal line every single turn, just staying disciplined, making the right decisions, and figuring out how to keep pressure high while still threatening at least a little bit of disruption into the Pirate Ranger on the other side of the table.
Really fortunate kind of draw off of that ponder token from Finley Shepherd, at least I'm guessing based on the body language. Marlynn is one of those few rangers that can brick on a ponder token, for example, drawing up like a sunken treasure or something like that.
Yep.
So really nice to see him kind of pocket that card almost immediately into the arsenal fearlessly, probably because he found himself a little bit of gas. In this case, it's back over to Ryan Ward. Graphene Callisto coming in for 1 go again, despite the fact that Finley is not marked, thanks to the hero text on Arachne Slip Through the Cracks. 1 damage does come through. 7 plays
Finley
9.
Finley actually was marked there. So since he was already marked, that also uses, not only does it gain go again from its own text, it uses Arachne Slip Through the Cracks' text there as well. So if you're in Finley's position, you can reasonably extrapolate that that is Ryan's only go again attack on that turn, or at least his only stealth attack on that turn.
A clean block on this Command and Conquer with Sunken Treasure and Conqueror of the High Seas, a card that Finley would have loved to be sending offensively against his opponent, but nevertheless, it still blocks 3, and there is inherent power in that. Does generate a gold token, thanks to the fact that he blocked with a Sunken Treasure and turned a yellow card face down. It was a little bit of offensive capability that did find its way into the arsenal off of that Ponder token, but nevertheless, it's a red on top of the deck, so this Murderous Rabble is going to only get 1 power. 1 go again here, 8 plays 7, 1 power going at Ryan Ward.
Definitely don't want to be converting your cards for 1, though that is maybe the role of a blue with go again, much less one that blocks 3. It's still not what you want to see compared to Murderous Rabble's possible heights of being a fully fledged head jab, though this does still help Finley out in being a little bit of extra information after giving up that Skullbone cross wrap.
Closing the chain here is Finley Shepherd. Still 2 cards in hand, possibly drawing off of that gold by closing this chain to find the take aim off the top. No, unfortunately, issuing themselves an IP penalty, keeping a card in hand and tucking another one in the arsenal. 8 plays 6 here, and the gas is firmly in the hands of Ryan Ward. This is a situation that is so scary when you're facing down a Slippy. The game hangs on a razor's edge at this very moment.
Ryan with 5 cards to work with. 8 damage is pretty easy for Slippy to send across the table, barring a full brick, but there is that Hunter's Clave on the board still, and another dagger generated by the Orb of your Spinneret, the Calicera that was flicked last turn, being found in a timely manner straight off the top of Ryan's deck. That's already representing 3 damage on this turn. It's not going to take much more to force Finley to block, or 1 misstep against Assassin. We saw it with Fang the last game that you and I covered in this season, and you know, it matters here too. Just 1 misstep in the blocking step can spell your untimely demise, thanks to the reactions that both of those classes are sporting.
Hunter's Clave comes across, does 1 damage to Finley Shepherd, who is now marked. No more equipment at their disposal, and no shelter from the storm drawn up here. At least I don't think so, based on the way he handled that Clave. Just not going to be able to handle these 1 power daggers in any efficient way on the blocking side of things. So they are almost, for all intents and purposes, representing true damage at this point in the game. Ryan, however, dotting his I's and crossing his T's, making sure he knows exactly how to process the rest of this turn. Graphene Callisto are going to get double go again, one from the Arachne Slip Through the Cracks ability, and also one for the fact that Finley is marked. So another 1 damage comes across here. Oh, excuse me, it's four damage.
Thanks
Yep.
to that Orb of your Spinneret. But Tar Pit Trap going to cover up 3 out of 4 here and deny an on-hit the next time an attack action card would connect. So
Finally.
even though this is a dagger here and it is connecting, Tar Pit Trap is not utilized on this hit. That trigger is still going to loom here and deny Ryan's next on-hit effect this turn.
So Ryan really hoping he found himself the one on hit that you can't ignore, which is, of course, on hit death. No, it is an Art of Desire body instead, which is not currently threatening the life total of Finley, but with a card in hand and a card in arsenal, this is hardly the damage floor that Slippy can present.
It's definitely still meaningful, even if this isn't going to be banishing cards or drawing cards or gaining any life. With 2 cards, like you said, this could very much be a multiple reactions kind of situation, threatening lethal.
The one thing that
Curious to see
Finley...
what Ryan has for us.
The one thing Finley does have going for him is the fact that 2 copies of Tarantula Toxin and also 2 copies of Razor's Edge have been blocked with on Battering Bolts previously in this game. So Finley getting a little bit more information here, as Snapdragon Scalers are the only reactions on that Art of Desire body. However, Art of Desire body still did not take hit, so Tar Pit Trap's effect persists.
Yeah, gonna deny that Blood Rot, which would be lethal damage here. Tar Pit Trap pulling some very serious weight on this turn cycle. I mentioned it before the game, but that card can be such a house against Assassin.
Back over to Finley. 3 cards in hand, 2 life points to work with, to his opponent's 6. Marlynn activation here.
Last gold.
Goldfin
Perhaps
Harpoon
the
in
last
hand.
gold of the game.
It's entirely possible here. Oh no. Come on.
Oh, baby! Oh my god! Harpoon for 3, 6, 9, 11.
Okay.
Threatening 2 ponders on hit. This looks like Azalea.
The second one, a little bit redundant, but nevertheless, this is significant damage. Ryan forced to block with at least 2 cards here. Nevertheless, still pulling that Tunic in for the action. Looks like it's a
Looks like that is
7 block.
Double Trouble, Tunic, and I can't quite tell.
I think it was
Joining
Persuasive
Finley, 2-2.
Prognosis. But man,
Whatever it was, it clearly blocked 3.
at 2-2, and with the Assassin player on the play with 2 cards in hand, 1 in arsenal, I tend to think that favors an Assassin player, Ellie.
Finley still has 1 Tar Pit Trap left in the deck. Assuming he's on all 3, could definitely bail him out of a bad situation. And we're going to see Ryan lead with Persuasive Prognosis here.
And Finley
Finley
saying
says
it.
terrifying.
Yep. And why is it terrifying, Ellie? What does that spell?
Good old Persuasive Prognosis pairs with just about the most obnoxious card in the Assassin's arsenal, Just a Nick, capable of turning any 1-power attack quickly into a 6-power. The best rate on an attack reaction in all of Flesh and Blood, a 0 for 5.
And perhaps even scarier in this situation is tempting Finley to block with 2 cards here, thereby putting the onus on Ryan to just pass the next chain link and do it all over again.
That is the nastiness of your stealth cards getting free action points every single turn. Slippy very much pays for it with 2 life.
Blocking 3 is Finley
Well
trying to
worth
call the
it.
bluff.
Let's see what Ryan has for him.
Ryan taking a dramatic pause for himself and also his opponent. Thumbing 2 cards, not slamming a Just a Nick immediately.
Curious to see what the rest of this hand looks like. It's possible Ryan can go over but not present lethal or is afraid of a defense reaction. Instead, just a Hunter's Clave following this. That's so interesting. He was holding on to take up the mantle but didn't want to flick his last dagger. In the case of something like a Shelter from the Storm, maybe looking to just shred the most cards out of Finley's hand possible here.
Oh, and that is a red flooded hand from Finley Shepherd. That's 3 that were blocked with on that turn, which means that the offensive potential of his clapback is next to nothing.
Ryan out of daggers. That flick knife's likely to get blocked with. Curious to see what Finley has on 2 cards here. I sure hope it isn't just a pass.
Hamstring shot blue is the return here. 2 card 3 right here. When the assassin player has a plethora of 3 blocks to choose from.
Or a 2 block with that flick knives on the board. We could find true lethal damage being found here. Should Ryan find some form of retrieve or Calicera generation?
A sink below yet to be resolved. Is that another one in the hand there too, Ellie?
I can't quite tell.
Ryan could have found his defense reactions at the worst time. Here. I would think so too. Maybe my eyes deceive me.
That is an enlightened strike.
No, it is a sink below left in hand. He's pocketing it for the next turn. Not confident enough that this E-strike is going to get the job done. It is demanding 3 cards from Finley at this point.
It is demanding 3 cards, but I do like just arsenaling the sink below. It's very much about playing around the situations that could end your life very quickly, like something like Codex of Frailty that just takes functionally 3 cards from you, forcing you to discard, and then, a 0 for 4, like a Searing Shot, can very quickly shred the rest of your hand apart. Instead, arsenaling a sink below, sometimes when you're in these positions, it's about not blowing it.
And not blowing it is Ryan Ward, but the arsenal of that sink below could spell a little bit of doom if he's not able to convert the rest of the 4 cards in hand. And yes, there's a Shelter from the Storm. Nevertheless, an E-strike is going to allow him to bottom one of those defense reactions. And then it's a Codex of Frailty in hand with no dagger slots. These yellows are pretty much useless.
This is definitely a little bit unfortunate. The worst case scenario rearing its ugly head after he arsenaled that sink below. We had a little bit of a back and forth of, oh no, arsenaling sink below might be a little sketchy, but also you have to avoid dying sometimes. But Finley just passed through and hoped his opponent would brick there. Ryan looking again at that sink below, rotting in his arsenal. That is brutal.
But if you're allowing your assassin player to filter 2 cards while doing nothing every single turn, you're still in a good spot. And this is exactly why, because they can now lead off with a Bonds of Agony, 1 go again, which is already a scary proposition, but you can't ignore it even a little bit because, hey, you've only got 1 life point to spare anyway. So it buys a 1 card block from Finley, which is probably all he can realistically offer. And Ryan, is it go time yet? Or is it time to just proceed on to the next chain link?
Very curious. Finley pretty confidently blocking with just 1 card on this Bonds of Agony. Wondering if he's calling Ryan's bluff or if he has found that last defense reaction. This take up the mantle going to push this to 4 thanks to Finley being marked here.
4, unless, of course, Ryan picks up a card with more base power than Bonds of Agony, and there it is. Kiss of Death. So even if this chain link doesn't get the job done, then the flick in the next chain link will probably get there in the end. Tar Pit Trap is the follow-up here, covering up that 6 damage very cleanly indeed. Ryan proceeds to the next chain link, gets Art of Desire Body. That Flick Knives looms so large here, Ellie.
The Flick Knives is going to send that attack action across. Notably, Tar Pit Trap would deny the loss of life here, but with only 1 life point left to work with, that is lethal for Finley Shepherd.
Oh, and that's all she wrote after such a big back and forth. I have to say, I think that this is kind of the way that Marlyn games go. If you can't close it out off of, like the Guardian play style of just overpower disruption over and over and over again, which honestly kind of feels like a slot machine kind of gameplay style, then you end up just being in endgame states where you can't hang.
Yeah, this was definitely a much closer game than I have experienced playing some amount of Marlynn. So definitely like a super well played game from both sides. It was cool to see Finley really hanging in there, even if he couldn't quite close, like you said. But also, I think Ryan navigated that game super well. Even if the sync below was a little bit awkward in the late game, I do think ultimately it was the right call, like you said, to find your way, navigate your ship through those rocky waters of overpower every single turn. Sometimes the insurance policy is better than the consequences it might bring with it.
And again, I think Ryan did an excellent job of doing a risk assessment analysis right there. Yes, he probably knew that the possibility of breaking up with more defense reactions was there, but being able to send E-strikes time and time again when your opponent is completely bereft of armor does mean that you are essentially red in the ledgering them almost every single turn. And it was even worse than that for Finley because he just had to pass back a couple times.
Yeah, he was stuck with that tar pit trap in his arsenal, and when your deck's all arrows from then on, you just don't really have any way to threaten your opponent, especially with all the Conqueror of the High Seas gone.
So down goes our Pirate Ranger, just the latest victim to the slippery assassin that is Arachne slipped through the cracks, claiming another one for the assassin guys in this, the League That Means Nothing Season 4. The League may mean nothing, but the wins and the experience mean everything. Ellie Bird, thank you so much for joining me on this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast. I was really excited to do this ahead of us working together on Kansas City. We had actually already agreed to do this, and then it kind of lined up that we were on Kansas City together. And I was already excited, but now we kind of get to like get a foot in the door with each other, get a little bit of experience, get some synergy, and I get to be on the League That Means Nothing, which is really cool. I actually really appreciate that. Shout out as I very much do not watch very much Flesh and Blood content, but actually do catch the vast majority of the League That Means Nothing. Like first match that I ever saw was just ended up on my YouTube feed. It was Hank of Goblin Reserve. I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name off the top of my head. Playing Viserai against a Bravo, and it was just this really sick, like grindy, like Scepter Viserai versus Bravo. They both go to 1-1, like really sweet game. I think it was season 2, and I've pretty much watched them all ever since. So really, really cool to get to be here, and thanks so much for having me.
As you're making dreams come true, left and right, mine and my co-casters. And you heard Ellie right. If you want to see more of us, heck, if you want to see more of us together, you can catch us at Calling Kansas City. Less than a month away. Am I right, Ellie?
Yeah, pretty soon. And
let
really
me say,
stoked about that.
Yeah, let me say this experience has only made me more excited. Can't wait to get in the booth with you at an illustrious Tier 3 event and to share our gift with the world. And, of course, the gift of some more great Flesh and Blood games. With that is going to wrap up our Bryce and Friends episode of our games of round 3 of the League That Means Nothing Season 4. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors, and we will be back with more excellent games of Flesh and Blood and more Go Again gaming very shortly. Stick around and see what else is on offer. Until next time.